I figured we'd bring it into a little something different tonight.
Let's go right now.
How's
Wow.
that? Little motivation?
Yeah, little moto.
A little motivation. What's up, gentlemen?
How are you?
What's
How are you?
What
We doing it.
Yeah.
Doc, I'm loving it. I'm glad that you used that one for my episode. I feel like, can we do it again? That's like my walkout song.
We can. Hold on.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
There we go.
All right, that's enough of
That'll
that.
help. There we go. There we go. All right, fellas, and all of y'all watching, welcome. I'm steering the ship tonight. I feel like Matt. I'm the pilot tonight. Welcome to the episode of the podcast, the Professional Dads Podcast. This week, co-parenting challenges.
Ooh.
And we're not just talking about, yeah, exactly. We're not just talking about, split households. We're talking about in the household too. So I think I'm the only one up here that's deals with split household. All of you guys got everybody in the same crib, but that doesn't negate you guys from co-parenting. So we're going to talk navigating, communication, and support. If you don't know and you're watching, I'm Josh Griffith, the host for the evening, and super excited to dive into this topic tonight. So I got my fellas with me as always, Matt, Devo, Eric, and Doc. What's good, fellas?
What's
What's
happening?
up?
What's happening?
Everybody's ready.
What's up?
We're like multiple stating it tonight. I think we're all over the place tonight, which is super cool.
Michigan.
Michigan's in the building.
Horrible.
Florida's in the building. Tampa's in the building.
And I just left the great state of Chapel Hill, North Carolina. So
That's the best state in the world.
Yes, sir.
Oh boy! All right, y'all, let's do it. Hey, here we
Go Hills.
Look, this is near and dear to my heart. So co-parenting is not always easy, right? So whether it's learning how to communicate effectively with an ex or, different parenting styles in the same household, figuring out how to make all that work is tough, and it's all for the child's benefit, I believe. So no one size fits all. As we talked about being a dad, there's no manual, so there's none of that to co-parenting either. So I'm gonna open it straight up. I'll give mine at some point, but since I'm running the show, I don't have to answer my own questions yet. So let's roll questions on. Give me a co-parenting, something that happened maybe this week, this month, something that's a co-parenting thing that maybe we're all dealing with kids of different ages where maybe your spouse and you don't agree, but you had to, we always have to sacrifice, right? I mean, that's what we do, us fellas. We're supposed to, there you go.
That's right. Get ready for the shotgun round where we get shotgun with questions we're not prepared for.
Yeah, I can jump on that first because just give you a real world what's going on in the current household this week is my daughter Lainey's getting ready to leave for Italy tomorrow to study abroad for this semester. Wow. Pretty cool for her, but you have me and my wife Tisha, and Tisha's spearheading, getting Lainey ready, doing all the packing, getting everything going. But she handles it differently. We're different personalities, so there's a lot. I hope she's not listening, which I know she's probably not, but it's probably a good thing I got to go on a trip, to go fly this week to Michigan because the stress level was high in the house, right? And we just handle things differently. We parent differently. She's doing an amazing, incredible job that I would never be able to do to get Lainey ready to go, to get all her clothes, everything in order, everything packed up. I'd be like, just throw it in the bag. Let's go. We don't need to worry about it. Just get it in the bag and go get on the plane and go. Well, she's going there for 6 months, right? So there's a lot of thought process that's going on, but there's also a lot of stress going on back at the house, And so it's been interesting because I bring the calmness to this situation where those two are pretty much kind of stressed out. And it's just parenting in a different way, and going through the stress of it a little different. I left last night, so I gave, Lainey the lecture last night, about going and being safe and not going anywhere alone and doing everything with her friends. And, when they go out, don't leave by yourself and, always make sure they're watching
the dad conversations.
I gave her the dad conversation. So that's co-parenting. It's we've handled the situation differently, but it's also brought balance to the situation. I think it's been pretty good, you know. So that's been a good thing.
Yeah. Balance. Who else dealing with it in it?
What Matt said.
Yeah. So I mean,
Hey,
it's always interesting. Well, first, Josh, congratulations to the Ohio State.
Oh
Because
yeah,
I got to give you the props. I put the dog away to give
there
you
you go.
that
Put
shine.
that dog away.
Put the dog away.
Ohio
Hey,
State.
what
Yeah,
happened, Josh? Did you get bit by a mosquito?
Yeah.
Oh, put some hydrocortisone on that. It'll be all right.
Yeah, but it's always a little challenging when having to get on the road. You know, Matt saying he's in Detroit, I'm in Tampa, and we have to be real tight with what's going on because I have a little bit more flexibility with my day when I'm there, so that if I need to get home or be available for the boys to kind of help out, I can do that. But then when I'm out of the house, it kind of changes Erin's schedule to where she's got to now make some adjustments, some sacrifices where normally she just has the freedom to kind of work as late and as long as she needs to. And so now we actually, and I think I said this before, it's probably what gave us the Black Waltons title. We have a multi-generational situation where Erin's mom lives with us. So some of that co-parenting is kind of a trinity where there's an extra layer of support that's there. So when I'm gone, what's really missing is more of just that kind of reminders, like you're the man of the house. I tell my oldest, like, make sure you're taking care of your brother, make sure y'all get your homework done. But then outside of that, Erin and her mom kind of.
So I'll add on to that. So does her mom, does she parent at all? I mean, because she's obviously Erin's parent. Like, is there any sort of that? Because she's gonna have to co-parent a little bit with her mom, and you really got to co-parent a little bit with her mom too, right?
So yeah,
work together as a team.
There's a fine line. There's an immense amount of love and respect because she runs laps around me in terms of the length of time she's been a mother. The only thing that I tell them is, stop babying them boys. I'm raising men.
Yeah.
And so there are those times where I have to send those little reminders when they know how to wrap mom and grandma around their fingers. I come in and bust all that stuff up. And it's like, look, I need to remind you guys that help on the side where I'm raising two boys. So, but outside of that, man, she knows her role and she's a support system and it works for us. But she also knows how to back up and let Erin and I do what we need to do for our household.
Sure.
Yeah, very good. Very cool.
Devo?
Yeah, so we got a little unique situation. I think actually I may have spoke on it a week or two ago, but we are in a unique situation where our oldest child is getting ready to graduate. And she's making these decisions about what next steps look like or what the potential of them are. Of course, me as a father, I'm like, hey, ain't no such thing as a gap year. That's something that you Generation Xers millennials done made up, right? So she wants to, find herself or whatever. I was like, when'd you become lost? But, so that's a whole nother story. And then my middle child, she's in a totally different situation as well because she has essentially been in college for the last 2 years. She had an opportunity to go to North Carolina School of Math and Science, which in her mind, she good and grown. And so now this is her first year in real college. She has to decide, what type of internship she's going to get. Well, I'm happy to report that through a couple suggestive hints of my own, and a few conversations with her mom, she's decided that she no longer wants to go down to the coast. She thinks she wants to stay a little bit closer to home, save a few extra dollars, and and just kick it here. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm thanking God just because, in my mind, I can't strong arm either one of my kids anymore. You know what I'm saying? And that, again, is the way that I used to kind of lead, or at least I thought it was leading. But it was just being strong armed. So now that they're getting older and they have their own thoughts and they think for themselves, we got to use a lot of communication. And Mom and I have two ideals about what it looks like to rear kids. I feel like, we got to have a little, not a little, a lot of tough love in a safe environment, right? So we can protect them and still try to stretch them as we prepare them for the real world. Where mom is, she like Mr. Huxtable over here. She wants to make sure that them babies get
It's
everything
doctor.
that they want. Dr. Huxtable,
Doctor.
excuse me.
Dr. Huxtable.
Dr. Huxtable. So it's just a little bit of a clash. And before I used to be like, dig my heels in the ground and be like, this is the direction that we're heading in. And our best fights have come because of these kids, and love them to death. But again, you even got a co-parent when both parents are there, because if one parent is thinking one thing and another parent is thinking something totally different, you're going to have a lot of animosity and a lot of clashing and bumping of heads. So you got to be willing to keep those doors of communication open, and you have to give, and you have to hopefully win a victory every once in a while too, but you can't win them all. The last point that I'll make is, in order for our kids to be well-rounded and to grow, again, we have to try to make sure we put them in situations in which they can be successful and we can lend our guidance. We maybe can't come straight after and be like, well, hey, I think this is what you need to do. Maybe we couch it and be like, well, do you want the red or you want the grape Kool-Aid? And hopefully, eventually they will gain an understanding and a deeper appreciation for your thoughts and your beliefs, and try to limit the knocks on the head and the lumps on the head that they may get from not listening, going a different direction.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Doc, anything from you?
Yeah, you said something, Diva, that sparked. First, you stole my thunder, and then you said something that sparked something that I wanted to bring up in the forum here. And I'll tell you what that is first, so I don't forget it, because that's how I am. But when I sit down and we have to make decisions, I don't tell my kids what to do or what they're going to do. I give them choices. I give them, look, you got to learn there's consequences for your choices and for your actions.
Right.
And part of growing up is being mature enough to make a choice. So what's your choice, A or B? The part where you stole my thunder was, we do a lot of co-op parenting when we're both here, because we're always both here. And that's mainly because of sports, especially with my son, coordinating when practices are, and it seems like they're every day lately. But and I admit I am horrible at communication, and I'm trying to get better at it. So I'll just throw myself under the bus.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's the big thing you guys all touched on. It was going to go to my question was, how can co-parent set boundaries and prevent personal conflicts from affecting the communication? And Devo, I think you said that is you always have to communicate, because if not, it could throw everything off.
Right.
Yeah.
There's got to be boundaries set for sure. And I'll say you guys all talked co-parenting in the home, so I can talk co-parenting, in separate homes. My daughter's 19; she's kind of doing her own thing. There's not really a whole lot of co-parenting there, other than big health things or college things or things like that. But with Hudson, with him being in high school, is the same thing. Doctor's appointments, practice. Hey, what time is he going to bed? Those sort of things. But it's still about communication. And whether let's see how I can say this. Sometimes I'd like to have more conversation with things, and sometimes I'm glad that there's zero conversation with things, if that makes sense to me. Like, I'm like, okay, you're old enough, and like you guys said, Devo said it. Hey, you're old enough now that there's consequences, right or wrong. If you stay up here at your mom's or you stay up here at my house, like what the consequences are. You got ball, you got school, you got all those things, and he's a great kid. So we watched thanks for shouting out to my Buckeyes, but he's like, do you think I can watch the whole game? Dad? And I'm like, yeah, that's not even a question. He's like, well, I know it's not going to get over till late, and I have a game tomorrow. And I'm like, well, and Devo, you said it. You stole my thunder too. But it's like, hey, you're not going to get to bed till after 11. You get up at 6:30. You got school all day. You got after school to stay and hang, and then you got a game, and you're going to have to do it all over again because you got a game on Friday too. So giving them that, the the choice instead of, hey, this is what we're going to do. And the older they get, the easier that gets. But we're also all dads too, so most of the time we're the bad cop. Maybe.
But hey, but that's not true, Josh. In my house,
Well, not, right.
But I was going to say this next, and you kind of led into it. But Tisha and I are different personalities. You know, she's more of the,
Tisha's the bad cop.
Yeah, she's bad cop the majority of the time. And I won't say all the time, but we're different personalities. I'm so laid back and all that. She's a little bit more, aggressive and type A on going at things. When I go to be the bad cop, you better stand by because things have gone awry. And my kids will tell you that when dad becomes the bad cop, but we've done a really, really, really good job of flipping that role. We are never really both bad cops, because we let that role happen. But if I'm bad cop, she'll become the good cop. Right. And all she has to do, like there was a thing that happened with Braden one time when he was in high school. And I went, high and to the right, and I was pissed. And all she did, looked at him and said, you've disappointed your dad. He was crushed. That's all that needed to be said to that young man.
That D word, man, is tough for kids.
Disappointed his dad. That was like, because that was just bad. And it made a high impact on him, And so we've done a good job of reversing those roles. Good cop, bad cop, how we play it. I'm more laid back. But I even said this a couple of weeks ago when we were talking, right? They go to, especially my daughters go to their mom for everything. So when my phone rings, I know it's something that they need to talk. I know it's something very serious and I need to answer it, right? Yeah. Every once in a while, it's just to call and, talk and catch up and do that. That happens quite a bit too. But if it's ringing, there's something going on. Normally I get a talk to say, hey, Dad, just want to see if you had time to catch up. We haven't talked in a while. So I know that that's the type of call. But when my phone's ringing, I better answer. With Braden comes to me more, right? And then he calls his mom for some of the other stuff, But it's very rare that it's kind of the way we've been able to co-parent boys and girls. Boys to girls and then different things, good cop, bad cop, and all that. So I appreciate that because it is kind of how you have to communicate and how you do it. And there's different roles and there's no right or wrong answers. You take the personalities, our personalities are different and our kids' personalities are different and all that. Yeah.
So would you say that your wife wears the pants of the family?
Doc beat me to the question.
I have a follow-up question.
She might. She might.
But I think here, and I know Doc was doing it to be, Doc and be funny, but you guys said it like with balance, or he's being serious. You were serious. He's like, I'm out of here. But like you said, it's a balance. It's a good cop, bad cop. Hey, I'm wearing the pants. You're wearing the pants, and I think you both done that, the blend of doing that, and again, and I have all of you guys answer this question too. What are specific things that you felt like you've done good to foster that balance with the co-parenting in the household? Because Matt, you have great kids. I don't know Devo's kids, Eric's kids, or Doc's kids, but I'm sure they're great kids as well. I just know Matt's kids. Oh, well, yeah.
But what have you know, sir, that was not in jest. There was a reason I asked that question. And it's very specific to Matt, myself and Devo. Being a military member, you're gone a lot. So you're not there to be the pants wearer 90% of the time.
True. Yeah. That's good. That's good.
Yeah, see, I went deep on that, didn't I?
You did go deep on that.
Yeah.
That is very true. Because when you've been gone, you walk back into an established household. And if you try to take over,
you're coming back in and you're messing up the pattern. You're messing up the flow.
Exactly.
Yes.
100%.
The most humbling thing in the world that excuse me, Josh, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
no, you're fine. I was going to go with what you're saying. Go ahead.
I took off to go down east to open up a brand new school and was gone, I was gone a lot. I was in and I was out. And when I came back and I automatically tried to jump back in the driver's seat, and wife was like, no, boo-boo, we good. We got this. Like, we've learned how to do this thing without you. And I was like, the hell are you talking about? Like, without me? Like, I'm Mandingo. Like, I'm the one who's ruling things. and I was quickly put in my place and know that ain't what it is no more.
That's the funniest shit I heard all week.
He said it wasn't what it is though. That's funny.
So I did traveling job stuff before too, and have come back to, you know, whether it's a couple days or a week, and you guys have done it for months. How does that affect? Because we've talked through this. We're men, ego in the driver's seat, control, all those things. How does that affect the communication? How does it affect the relationship? How does it affect the kids? All that stuff. I mean, we talk parenting. How does it affect the parenting role when you've been, let's say you're the disciplinarian, or, you know, your dad, you're, you know, good cop, bad cop, doesn't matter. You leave and come back, and now you're not that because the kids are like, bro, mom's been doing this. You've been gone. Like, who are you?
Well, Doc's probably right, though. Doc's probably right. I've never played that role in my house, and it has really become, since we started having kids, I've been gone to this day, constantly. I'm, you know, gone, and so she's played that role better than you. So you're actually spot on, Doc. You know, when it comes to that, she is the one who plays that role. I play a more balanced character in the house.
That could be more than just the jackass.
Yeah, exactly.
Matt does have to ask Tisha where the pants are. He doesn't know where they are.
What man doesn't, though? I mean, let's be honest.
Right. Well, true.
I mean,
I put him here last week. Now what?
Right.
I was just say, for me, I think some of it is just having expectations. We both have expectations of what we want for the boys. I think when I listen to you all, though, I'm kind of almost in kind of futuristic tone. I wonder what it will be like when I add maybe 4 to 6 more years on the kids when they're a little bit older. They're like, right now we're still building structure. So a lot of the co-parenting is about molding and shaping a kind of a responsible child we want, disciplined child we want, developing habits for certain things that might show up in the classroom and things of that nature. So on the elementary side of things, talking about school, some of it is just the co-parenting is that we want the same outcomes in terms of shaping and molding. That I'm actually, as I listen to you all, kind of almost sitting in anticipation mode to see when they're making choices, whether it's with the car first time, or they're going to have anybody else in the car if we tell them not, peer pressure, things of that nature, when they want to start dating, what's that going to look like? So some of it is, one ear is fine-tuned to hear what you all experiencing to the degree that I want to know what that's like if we kind of chop it up 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And the other part,
I'm sorry. I don't think you have to wait, man. I've been doing this with them since they were little. Yeah. If you're going to throw a temper tantrum, here's what's going to happen. Yeah. You choose. What do you want to do?
Yeah.
Dr. Huxtable needs to whoop that tail.
Yeah. Now they look. I shouldn't say this because I don't believe in violence and stuff, but they do know about Donkey Kong, because that soft spot in the head has got more of the hair. You hit that, it doesn't leave a mark. So if my kids hear me talking about you gonna get Donkey Kong, they know what that means. I'm not gonna
what you don't hear them saying is they're like, Mom, when's he going out of town again?
Well, real talk. That did happen in my previous job. I think I told y'all prior to this one, I was in a suitcase for those 4 years. In a suitcase with like, where's Dad going? Oh, he's out in San Francisco. Where's Dad going? Oh, he's in Cupertino or wherever. And so we were always gone. And so almost like what you're saying and trying to hit the reset button, I was almost like trying to figure out the rhythm of my house, because I left, we were waltzing, and I come back in, it's like hip hop, trying to figure out, I can't just come in. I gotta reestablish what's the rhythm of the house, because it's
trying to take it back to waltzing.
It's just different, it's different.
I kind of equated to. I keep cutting you off. I'm just going to mute my mic.
No.
I'll mute myself.
Look, one little fine thing is that, but where I see it show up when I do come back is like my oldest, Dad, man, good to see you, man. It's like, falling in love with his dad all over again. My youngest, He makes me earn that stuff. He won't come to me at all. It's like, you come to me, dude. You ain't been here. You got to figure me out again. And so that's always fun in trying to figure those things out.
Well, I think obviously good stuff that we've all done, and we can sit back now at our, Matt and I obviously with older kids, Devo older, just the different ages, and look back and go, man, I wish I would have done this. Like, I wish I would have been there more for this, or I wish I would have said this. What? And Matt, maybe it's a good question for you too, or you and Devo, but people out there that are going through or co-parenting, maybe they're struggling with parenting at home in the same household, or maybe they're struggling with two households. What kind of advice can we give them on that topic that we've just talked about? Balance, communication, keeping everything, you're trying not to rock the boat, because I'll say, my situation, if I rock the boat here, the boat rocks there too. And if the boat rocks there, the boat also rocks here, because it's the kids that's going back and forth. So the boat's going to be able to rock. How can we help maybe give some advice to people in my situation or in you guys is that maybe are going through that? Or as Eric was just saying, hey, I'm anticipating this is going to happen. Whether Eric might just be because we're on camera. He's like, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. We're going to get off this thing. Eric's be like, I don't even want to do it. I don't want to do it. Like, the anticipation, good or bad, how can we maybe help folks that are like, man, if I could ask them one question, this is what it'd be. What's some advice maybe we can give to have, Matt, what you're saying? Because it sounds easy, and I know it's not.
Yeah.
You guys have been married for a long time, grown kids, but what kind of advice can we give or maybe share on keeping things balanced in or out of household?
Yeah, I would say regrets, and I've talked about this a little bit before, is we did too much for them in some cases. We overplayed it, overprotected, didn't force them to do some things, maybe. And I think that's a societal thing that we really do a lot nowadays. They're not going to do the same things I did, because if they go out and do the same things I did, they're going to not make it, And so we overprotect a little bit instead of putting them out there and making them make their decisions, making them fall and skin their knee, with reason and stuff like that. And I think that, I maybe have pushed for that some. Tisha may have been more the protector as the mom, and I think we had to strike a balance on that. We had to really communicate on that of not overprotecting, not overdoing. And Tisha wasn't that way. We were always on the same sheet of music. We really kind of established that. But really, we did overprotect a little bit. And I think that's probably the biggest regret is, that's one of the things that we did, open, honest communication. But at times we did too much for them. They never worried for anything. They always were getting new clothes. I told you, Braden's driving a Ford F-150 Super Crew while I'm out there driving a Ford Fusion, So we were giving and giving and giving. And sometimes it's like, wait a minute, what are we doing here? Right. And I think that's,
are we helping or hurting?
Yeah, are we helping or are we hurting? That's a great way to put it. And I think that, at times we overdid it and we were, I think, hurting, but we recognized it and kind of course corrected. And I think that's kind of my biggest advice to parents nowadays. Don't overdo it. Don't overdo it. They have to learn how to make their own decisions and live, because guess what? Lainey's going to Italy. I'm not in Italy. Tisha's not in Italy. She's got to stand on her own 2 feet for the next 6 months and make responsible decisions. So you want them walking over there with some, not just book smart, they got to be street smart.
You're smart too.
Yeah.
I tell you, for the parenting of the two household parents, I have a very, very easy piece of advice for a very complex and convoluted problem. And it's simple. It's to remember you gotta be grown-ups, right? Regardless of how you feel about your ex or how they may feel about you, it's not about y'all. It's about the kids. And if you can get that in the brain housing group and you can remember that, your kids are going to be so much better for it. But I realize it's not easy. That's it's very difficult.
No. Yeah, it's difficult.
I think the one thing that I would say is, or maybe two things, but the first of the two things that I would say would be let some of that air out your chest. I think a lot of times we as men, sometimes we like to swell up and we like to feel as if we got all the answers to every situation, which couldn't be further from the truth. Matter of fact, I would even commend Matt on his stance, and because I think sometimes you lead, sometimes you follow, but you have to be savvy enough to recognize the difference. You're not always leading the dance, and let's face it, fellas. Sometimes our wife have a much better, a much stronger answer than we do when it comes to answering a situation. And the second point that I would like to bring up, the sins of the father last many generations. Like that is a verse that just is etched in my mind's eye. One, because of oh, that's right. We said we're not gonna share stories, right? So I won't relive any college days. But
share away, my brother. Share away.
We only got an hour.
We ain't got much time.
So when I think about that, the sins of the father last many generations, I think about my situation and again, moving away and deciding that it was the best move for our family. And if I look at it now, I think I was probably pretty selfish in that move. It was for my own ego, thinking that I wanted to get another notch in my belt loop and I wanted to have career success. And this is how my career success was defined. Well, that came at a cost. And so I didn't really recognize the cost back then. But boy, do I ever recognize the cost now. And that's when I gave up a lot of my ability to, not necessarily ability, but a lot of when Heather had to step up and be like, all right, I got the reins now. If you're not going to be here 24/7, then I have to figure out a way to grow my skill set so that I can make decisions in the best interest of our family in your absence. And that's sobering, fellas, to come to that realization.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Question in the chat and I'll answer it. I want to answer this one too, because it's kind of, and it'll lead into my share in a few minutes. But how does your parenting style differ from your own childhood, and what have you had to shift in your parenting belief?
Sit down, boy. Shut up.
We might need to break this into a couple segments.
Yeah, this might need to be a couple segments, but I'll say, like, my dad, I was a preacher's kid, like from birth, so I was glass house all the time. So I knew what I was supposed to do. I also knew if I didn't do what I was supposed to do, I was going to be told after I probably got beaten a couple times. But my parents' parenting style was just is straightforward, straight to the point. Here it is, cut and dry is what it is. Going to my parenting style, I realized that didn't work for my kids. You know, I have a 19-year-old now and a 14-year-old. I wish I would have probably realized sooner that parenting style didn't work for my kids. And I realized it probably too late and had to shift and adjust some things and go, man, I probably handled that situation way wrong. But that's how my dad would have handled it. And that's kind of what we know, and that's just what we do. Instead of kind of thinking on our own, that's all I knew then. It's like sports, right? I played sports growing up. My dad coached me growing up. Same thing. I wanted to coach my kids. Neither one of my kids are kids that their parent can coach them. I was that, but my parents, I wasn't. I actually bowed out early on that one. I realized that one. But mine, I tried to parent the same way that I was parented, and it was it didn't work for my kids. So it doesn't work for my kids all the time. So
Amy, I'm gonna just tell you that if you watch NXT wrestling, Trick Williams got a theme song that says "Whoop that trick." Whoop that trick. Whoop that trick. That was my theme song as a kid. Growing up in Shiloh, North Carolina. Whoop that trick. But I have to own it because
you're the holiest rapper I know.
I know.
I know. But look,
Right.
I tell you, like I said in the last conversation, I wouldn't, badmouth my parents or anything, but it was a lot of discipline, and it was, things that I did. Now, granted, I lied any day that ended in Y to get out of something, and it got me into more trouble. So just because it was Monday, I would lie my way out of something and just get into more trouble. So I had to figure it out. But what I will say. To this day, I know my mom and dad love me unequivocally to this day. But I think that even as a child, I was craving to hear the word.
Yeah.
And I didn't necessarily hear that word. But I have no doubt in my mind that they, for the things that they did for me, what they provided for me, the community that I grew up in that was rooted in love. But it was something I was wanting to hear, and I didn't hear. And I don't know if that, sometimes we were conditioned of maybe, that's maybe not things that men say. They do. They provide. You should know. And as kids, you want to hear it,
Hear it.
So if there's one difference, I think, not good or bad or right or wrong, is that I make sure to say the word. I leave no room for doubt. So my boys hear me tell them I love them.
Same.
Like put them in my face, nose to nose, all that kind of stuff. And it might be goofy to them, but it's manifesting from something that I think I wanted to hear. And I can say this without offending, anybody on my feed that might be listening, say, man, you disrespect your mom and dad. It's not coming from a place of disrespect. It's coming from a place of expectation as a child of what you want and what you might not feel you can say, or maybe in that generation, 70s, 80s, 90s, you couldn't say.
Couldn't
So
say it,
you
I
were
don't
not
think.
being disrespectful. And so that's just the difference. And so when I think about it and how Amy's framed it, that is the only shift in the belief, is that I leave no doubt and make sure that I tell my boys I love them.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
good. Sometimes it's not always, I do this for you so you understand what I do what I do, or do as I say, not as I do. But yeah, you're right. Hear it. I've had conversations with my mom more recently on. She's like, hey, I wasn't, because my mom wasn't. She wasn't the get down on the floor and play with us type of thing. That just wasn't my mom. Like you said, no bad mouth in the preacher's kid thing. I've never been arrested before, never tried drugs other than the legal one that's now legal in Virginia. But I never got into trouble like that. I do know they love me. There's no doubt. I'm with you, Eric. Like, I know they did that. But my mom would go, man, I never got on the floor and played with you guys. Like, no. And my mom gets emotional about it. She's like, Josh, I'm sorry I wasn't that mom. I was trying to do this, this, and this. And I'm like, hey, we're good. It's just one of those things, the generational change now. It's like, when my kids were younger, like, I was down on the floor with them. They wanted that. I didn't necessarily want to do it all the time because you're a man. I'm not getting down there and playing with you, girl, like playing Barbies or whatever. But she wanted that. And I think they're more vocal. This generation now is more vocal about, hey, this is what I need. And we weren't that then, maybe, if that's right. Whether we didn't feel up to it, our parents didn't, the generation didn't, the circumstances didn't. We just didn't. But I feel you there for sure.
Our generation also was, don't say nothing. Like, our job is not to speak. It's just to be seen. And so, like, giving my dad some advice, Dad, I need you to give me a hug and kiss me in the forehead and tell me you love me. Son, you better go somewhere and sit down. Like,
beat that trick.
Right. Like all that. Trick daddy, trick uncle, like whoever. Like it was not a thing. And I came from the same household. Love my folks to death. And so, yeah, like, me being a father, like, that's all I know is Winston-Salem, Trey Foe. That was my model. And then I'm growing up and I'm seeing some of these same models in different schools, and I'm like, I'm not quite sure that's working. Like, it's good to grab your child and tell them, hey, I love you. Or give them a call and be like, hey, I just want to let you know I prayed for you today. For no reason, I just prayed for you because that's the right thing to do. And I want to tell you about it. And so I think that's extremely important.
Well, so one of the things I'll say is that, I grew up, my parents were great, but also they weren't overbearing, right? we did a lot just free. I mean, we were free. Like they weren't overbearing. We had rules. We abided by the rules, but I had a lot of freedom when I was growing up, just a lot. So my thought process, and just I'll put this out here as a question, and again playing devil's advocate, is like, have we swung the other way?
Yeah.
Have we swung the other way in some ways as society? Is that we're not gonna over punish our kids or overset the rules, or I mean, spank that ass when they need it, because we all felt that, but we don't do that nowadays, right? We're not gonna that's not how we parent. That's not how we do. And so we play that kinder, more gentler role. And I'm not saying that's right or that's wrong, but sometimes, again, have we swung too far that way with society? That's just a question.
I'm gonna go back on
with
record.
You Thunder Steelers. Thunder Steelers.
Go ahead.
Nope. That horse is dead and buried.
Doc is so salty tonight. Doc is salty. He's so mad. Yeah, I mean, I think you said it earlier, Matt, too. I think that there's you try to put him in a bubble, and that's another way of putting him in the bubble. Like, hey, we don't want you to scrape your knee. We don't want you to go. We're not going to take you out of the house, do any of that stuff. We're going to kind of keep you here. But then you go to kindergarten and you're sick the whole first year. But I think there's got to be a balance somewhere. We've swung that way, and some people do swing that way and just, hey, I just completely just not.
Well, I love talking about this because nobody's read the big manual, right, of how to parent. But there's no manual on how to parent. There's no right or wrong.
It just seems like it just goes like this.
I don't think I like the way this conversation is swinging.
There is a manual. It's just not one that's in Starbucks, or it's not.
True. You are right.
It's the one that sits on that coffee table.
It's not Barnes and Noble. Yeah, it's a book.
Dust on theirs.
It works. And if I can steal a little page from Proverbs, it's engraved in me: spare the rod, spoil the child. And I used to be that little smart aleck kid was trying to tell my dad, well, there's other rods. It doesn't have to be a belt, but
go grab that off the tree.
It was a
handle.
It was a belt and a switch.
So how that works?
I will reboot my boys if I need to with the belt if I have to, and sometimes I will say, hey boys, it's time for you guys to get rebooted. I mean, we're out of control, and it's not the swinging on the side of soft or changing those characteristics, but it goes back to Matt. You said something that just stuck with me, was that your children did not want to did not disappoint you. Then that, man, it's almost like taking away a game. You can't play on Saturday because I'm disappointed at something you did, and I know that's what you want to do. And so there are times where I have sat on the bed with one of the boys or both of them, depending on the situation, and just looking at them, saying something from like, "Hey, God, man, I can't believe you said that about your mom, or said that to your mom," or even tell my youngest just last week, "Hey, man, your mouth is going to get you beat down because you're getting real close to the line of being disrespectful to your mom." He thinks it's cute because he's got this kind of, happy-go-lucky persona about him. But every now and then I'm measuring. I'm like, oh, you're getting close to that line. You're going to get rebooted or Donkey Konged. You choose,
I love that. Well, I think that's the thing, too. You talk about different generations. I say, I'm with you. Like, I'll say that. I'm like, bro, like, what's your deal? Like, are you okay? Because you're really coming off disrespectful now. Can you imagine if we said that? Like, it wasn't like a, hey, bro, what's wrong? It was like, blah.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about Proverbs.
Have any of you?
We had a paddle.
Did any of you have your mouth washed out with soap?
Oh.
No, but Matt, hey, Matt. I said I wouldn't talk about my dad, but I'm gonna talk about my mom real quick. That's what, look, there is a classic. You talk about washing your mouth out with soap. There was a time when my grandmother, her mom, God bless her soul, when she used to come and visit us and stay with us sometimes, and she says, getting at me and stuff. And I remember I tried to get shut up. I think I got shut because my mom's washing dishes, and it ain't nothing like a wet hand with soapy come out. Bam! She hit me. She hit me in the mouth so hard. Man, it literally one motion coming out the sink.
Back to washing dishes.
Whack up. And washing dishes. And I'm laying in the floor, like looking at my girl, like, really? But it's just like that was the thing. You're not gonna play. You can't play like that.
To Megan to this day. I only had to do it to Megan one time. I put a little bit. I'm talking about I got a little soap on my finger and I put that in her mouth. That's all it took. That's all it took. Man, never had to do that again. And it didn't have to do it to the other two because of the trauma that Megan went through from a little bit of soap in her mouth.
No, I got tons of family that are on here. They'll probably remember bars of soap scraped to the bottom of my teeth. They'll taste Dawn or lava soap or Irish Spring or whatever. We didn't have no money back then, so it was probably some nasty Dove or Irish Spring. It's probably still on the back of my teeth right now. Yeah,
that generic soap that just said soap.
Yeah, it just said soap on it. And it was in a box that you got wet, it would just dissolve. That's yeah. Ugh.
Look at him. He's going through it right now.
I'm going through it now. You said Proverbs. I'm like, that's Proverbs 22:15. Listen, I told you. I can say it. They're not going to jail. My parents love me. We had a paddle, a wooden paddle, like handle paddle. Said PROV period 22 ... 15. It hung on the wall. And we all knew if that was ever not on the wall, somebody was they beat that trick. We get it done. Listen, if people think I'm joking when I say this, I remember looking in the mirror at my own behind multiple times and seeing that outline backwards on my butt.
Who got paddled in school?
I got paddled third grade.
I got paddled at home at school. Man, Devon, you appreciate this, man. I probably shouldn't say this because I probably got frat listening, but I remember getting that wood one time, and I remember trying to be a smart, but I turned around and said, "Man, my dad hit harder than that." Because I was like, I was used to getting that wood from them. So it prepared me. They don't do that now. That was in the 90s.
Right.
They don't do that now.
That was pre-hazing days only.
Pre-hazing days. That's done on the DL now that nobody knows about.
Nah, they don't do that no more. I don't even know what I'm talking about. But no, it's funny because I think we got prepped for those days because it was something that was very important. And not only that, because the community had the license to raise it, we talk about co-parenting, we talk about community raising. It could have been grandmother, dad comes home late, or mom, then dad. I can recall so many times I'm laying in the bed and I have to get up at 10 when my dad gets home because he just got the news of something I did.
Yep.
Uh-oh.
Ago. And it's like, wait a minute, I got it at school, and you're gonna do it too? Like, really? But that's stop lying on every day that ends in Y, and you'll be all right.
Yeah.
True.
The other bad part was when you used to play like you was asleep in the car ride home and think that they weren't gonna wake you up.
Hey, Devo, not just sleep.
You got to catch all this.
We had that funeral home sleep.
Hey, yeah. Hey, worst. Literally, I mean, it's the worst. My dad, he had this belt, had two things. You come like two holes, like a double thing. So you come across you have like different welts, like look, yeah. But the worst thing that ever happened to me, my mom, I was probably 18. I was in high school. I might have been 18. My mom came at me with the fly swatter, a metal fly swatter, right? And I'm laughing. She's coming at me. I'm thinking, you ain't gonna do this to me. So she went to swing it. I put my hand back. It caught my pinky right there. And I'm talking about for a week, that thing was just going wrong. I mean, it was throbbing. It was black. It was underneath my nail. And man, that was the worst spanking I ever got because my pinky did not recover for a week.
That's because you should have been listening to hip hop back then. I put my hand up on my hand, and then you swing. You didn't know the songs back then. You got your hand in the way. You should have put it on your hip.
You should have dip, we dip. You've been fine.
Yeah.
Song didn't exist when Matt got his rear end head into him.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Well, hey,
Yeah.
the reason I wanted, obviously, this topic is, I had the co-parenting thing for, my son was my daughter was 6, my son was 2.5 when their mom and I divorced, and we've talked about it to this day. We've talked about it for a long time, 13 years, 14 years, is not doing. We just didn't do a good job. We've talked about. I wanted to prove that I was this is my advice and my story for everybody listening, but I wanted to prove that I was a better parent. And she wanted to prove that she was a better parent. And that caused a ton of friction, and it caused a ton of, probably a ton of resentment and a ton of animosity and a ton of, obviously stress on both of the kids. And then the ripple effect out to her family and my family and siblings and all of that. So, that's one thing that's always I've struggled with is not just the question that Amy asked of, how I was parented and how I chose to do that, but then throw the divorce and the 2 households in there and trying to look back on, hey, what could I have done differently? A lot. I could have done a lot differently. But the biggest thing I want people to take away, and we can kind of hit it here the last 10 minutes, is, being on the same page, regardless of in or out of the household. And because it's ultimately for the kids. I mean, I think Doc said that earlier. If that's the center focus of it, regardless of what happened, the kids have to be at the center. And it's not easy. Doc said it, and I'm like, inside, I'm like, he doesn't know I'm going to say it. But it's not easy because we have feelings and we have egos, and you think that, all of those things are there. So I'm not saying it's easy, but man, if you can put the kids at the center of all of that, if you're going through it, if you started it, if you're getting ready to do it, that's got to be my biggest piece of advice. At least coming from my side of things. If anybody wants to throw any on that one or not. No.
A little behind the scenes humor there, folks.
Yeah.
Yes.
Any
What
of
was the
you,
question
if you
again, Josh?
subscribe
Go ahead.
now and you join our Patreon account, we'll let you. I'm just kidding.
It was such a good moment too, Doc.
It
I'm
was
like,
a good moment.
Contact.
y'all subscribe on Patreon. You guys can see what we got going on in the chat.
Convene. There ain't no Patreon. You subscribe on Convene. I try to keep telling you about that.
ConveneCommunities.com. The Josh Wizards community.
But hey, my comment to that is, for us, is just Aaron and I are, for the most part, on the same page. We have to be on the same page. I appreciate when she will send an update to my calendar that has to do with the kids, because I told you guys I incorporate my personal and my work calendar, so everything's on there, and so I don't miss anything. And so if there's something that needs to be updated, if she gets it first, whether it's from the school, she sends it to me, boom, I can adjust it or add it to the calendar. I appreciate that kind of stuff because she's so busy, but yeah, she's so thoughtful for things that have to do with the kids that is popping up on my calendar. But when it comes to walking in the door, whether I walk in first or she walks in, whatever the situation is, the boys know whatever she says goes. They don't even have to come ask me, because it's going to be, what did mom say? And we really have committed to make sure that Christ is in the center. We are around that. And then outside of that are the kids in that order. Because if we're in tune with that, our judgment and decision makings for the best betterment of our children are going to be from that nuclear point. And so I don't have to play good cop, bad cop in some situations, or play mom against dad, because it's like, if she said it, I don't have to say a word. I'm gonna put a period on that, but I'm also gonna leave it for. I love for us to be together 5, 6, 7 years from now, because I'm gonna want to get measured on what that looks like when they're older. Are they still going to be doing those same things?
True.
And look, I'll say on that comes down to communication, right? Yeah, and I think again, when it comes to me and Tisha, we've communicated. We're different. We know we're different. We have different thoughts, but we've communicated on it, and we've agreed together on a co-parenting style, right? Yeah. I do things a little different than she does. She does things a little different than I do, but we are in 100% alignment of how we do it from an overarching parenting strategy, co-parenting strategy. And you have to have that communication, right? I can't go off on a tangent. Nope, this is how it needs to be done. She can't go off saying, nope, this is how we need to do it. We got to be in alignment, just like you just said, Eric. We have to be walking same in step with each other when it comes to parenting. If we're not, that's fine, but we better come up with a plan and a strategy that we can agree upon and go forward with that. And
I
then
think
when
it's
something goes awry, we got to communicate.
I think it's important to know that going in. It's okay to have the different styles.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's totally okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, there's young couples especially, and I was guilty of this. Well, I couldn't think. It's got to be either my way or her way. In reality, it can be both ways.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I would take that one step further. I would say that, there's no such thing as over communication. So I think that's extremely important.
Yeah.
I know there's some situations that may be a little bit difficult than others, so I'm not trying to minimize that either. However, what I would say is try to present on your parenting front that is unified, that you guys are on the same page.
Sure.
And if you're not, like, take that shit off script, like take it behind the scenes and have those closed door conversations and calibrate or jump on a Zoom call when it's just the two of y'all, go sit out in the car in the driveway and figure it out. Our kids are worth it. And it's just once our kids know that, all right, we can play mama versus dad, then
it's over with.
When they will pluck you off the fence one by one. And so you have to be smart enough to that and just make sure that you keep adult conversations between adults and kids conversations between kids. And again, keep the kids in the center of it. Like, be kid focused when it comes to this.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Anybody else? Last thoughts before we roll it out?
Yeah. Well, we're going to have a good topic next week, and that's social media. And when it comes to that topic, social media and phones, you got to communicate. So it's a good topic, but it's a carry on from this one, because you and the spousal unit, and even, Josh, you and your ex, when it comes to those topics, you have to be on the same sheet of music. So it'll be a carry on of co-parenting. Sure. And how you take care of stuff, but a little deeper. So come join us next week.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you all so much for hanging out, fellas. Thank you for the insights, the advice. Thank you all so much for watching Professional Dads Podcast. We'll see you next week. Same time, same place.
Let's go.
Later.
Comment, click like, subscribe.
And subscribe.
Today's show was brought to you by Coca-Cola.